Hello and welcome back to Open Line. We are discussing the sanctuary city bill that has moved from the legislature and is now waiting to see what the governor will do. And with me to discuss this is the co-director of the Tennessee Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, Stephanie Teatro to my left, and further to my left we have Mary Catherine with the Public Defender's Office. So if anyone has questions or comments, call the number on your screen, 615-737+. And I believe we do have Melanie on the line. Melanie, thank you for calling. What's your question?
Yes, I would like to know what would be a better situation or better action to take rather than the sanctuary bill to enforce our country's illegal immigrants from just streaming in. It's like once they come into the country, they're just here to stay, and nobody has to follow the law. But I, as a citizen, have to follow the laws of our country. So what would be a better way of handling the lawlessness of the immigration, the illegal immigrants?
Melanie, thank you for your question.
Thanks for that question, Melanie. So this is something we hear about often. I think people who have questions or concerns about how the federal immigration system works. And I think, well, we should, as a country and as a community, debate what are the best laws for our nation to have, what is the best border policy, or how many people should come in, and how should we enforce our immigration laws. But really, that's a conversation for the federal level. This bill will do nothing to change our border policy. This bill does nothing to change how people come to this country. What this bill does is make neighbors less likely to call the police because they'll mistake them for immigration agents. It means that families will be less likely to take their kids to school, to get vaccines. This really will just divide our communities. So while, Melanie, your concerns are really valid and important to figure out how we work at the federal level to update and improve our nation's immigration laws, at our local community level, what we know is best is when everybody feels safe to participate and contribute, to report crimes, to be involved in their kids' education, and so that's what's at stake with this bill.
I'd also like to jump in. I think what we're hearing from you, Melanie, is a pretty common misconception about, I'm going to say, the lawlessness of people who are here without documents, or of the immigrant population in general. And it's interesting because several studies have actually shown that non-native born people, so people who were not born in the U.S., commit crimes at a lower rate than people who were born in the United States. So actually, statistically, your neighborhood is going to be safer if there are more people there who were not born in the United States. The other thing that I want to mention is that being in the United States without documentation is not actually a crime. So many people think that people are breaking the law just by being here, but that is not actually the case. And then I do want to just reiterate what Stephanie said, that this law doesn't do anything about our borders. It doesn't do anything to prevent people from coming in. It merely limits the discretion, or takes away the discretion from our local governments and our local agencies to make the decisions that are best for our specific community needs.
What do you guys say to people obviously being against this bill, and what you guys do, that you're supporting people coming here in the country illegally? What do you normally say to people?
So, I mean, immigration is incredibly complicated, and where I would agree with Melanie is that our federal immigration laws need updating. We haven't updated our immigration laws and updated the ways that people can come here lawfully in about 30 years. So our current immigration system is not helping families, it's not helping people who want to come here, it's not helping our economy. So we do need to do a major redo on update to our immigration laws. But I think the misconception is that right now we have a set of good and functioning laws that are being broken by bad people, when in fact we have incredibly outdated laws. Think about how much our world has changed in 30 years that are really harming good people.
So the bill is now waiting for the governor to decide on what to do. What do you think he will do?
So, our governor...
That's all you, Stephanie.
So, I think it's an open question. The governor has not indicated one way or another what he'll do with this bill. But what we know for sure is that during the legislative session, legal experts local law enforcement, city officials, educators, faith leaders, immigrant families, we're all expressing serious concerns about the bill, and we hope that he's listening to those concerns. Just today, more than educators delivered a letter with more than 500 signatures from educators across the state who warned that if this bill becomes law, they are going to be unable to do their duties as teachers.
How so?
Because the bill would prohibit campus police, school resource officers, and other employees of the school district from prohibiting or from limiting inquiries about somebody's immigration or citizenship status. It would prohibit limits on the sharing of important and confidential information. And it really just creates the specter for immigrant families that there is going to be very little separation between local schools and immigration enforcement.
All right, thank you for that. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just want to jump in to correct what I think is another misconception, which is sort of that there's a dividing line between us and them, us the Americans and them the immigrants, or them the undocumented people. And especially here in Tennessee, most of the clients I deal with are part of what I would call blended families. So they have a mix in their family of citizens, residents, undocumented people. So when you, it's not so easy to just get rid of this whole class of people, because these are married to citizens, children of citizens sometimes, parents of citizens often. So it really is a more complex question, because these are people who are very interwoven into our community. They're business owners, they're homeowners, they're workers, they're part of us.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the lines. We have David on the line. David, thank you for calling. What is your question?
Hey, thanks for taking the call. I'll tell you straight up, I can't even believe in this country today we're even having this discussion, unless my 60 years of living have taught me wrong when I was in school even about the federal law and who has to follow it and who don't, because that's basically what this is all about. I mean, we're talking about people coming up in here committing crimes, and then they're hiding out in the city, and basically that's what Sanctuary City is. You know, first off, you're breaking the law because you're here illegally. I don't care how you are. I can't believe you've got somebody sitting there that's protecting these people. You know, if you, I can't go tell the government I can't pay, I'm not going to pay my taxes. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to get on TV and put it out there. I'm illegally not paying my taxes, and I'm proud of this, and put me on TV. No, they would throw me in jail, okay, because I'm a citizen. These guys and these gals breaking the law, cities protecting them from prosecution, funding, get rid of it. Let them take care of their own problems. Don't put them under any kind of federal statute about anything. If they want to do this, and leave it up to the cities that are doing this to take care of them. But like I say in the very beginning, in 60 years of living, the liberals are muddying the waters. They're taking a law and they're twisting it and they're perverting it into things that it shouldn't even be. Federal law says if you don't belong here, you go home. You break the law, you pay for the law. You pay for what you've done, and then you get sent out of here. I mean, unless I misunderstand the federal law, that's the way it should be. So I don't understand why we're even having this discussion. If I having somebody on there that supports this, that just tells me what's wrong with this country.
All right. Well, David, thank you for that comment. Truly, thank you for the phone call. David, I'm sure, definitely shares the same sentiment of a lot of people in the country. As we've heard, he gave his opinions and thoughts. What would you like to respond?
Yeah, just a few things. So, I mean, I can't speak to whether or not he is misunderstanding or not federal law, but I do think it's clear that there's a lot of misunderstandings about what this bill does. Again, I think it was very kind of dangerous for the sponsors to label this a sanctuary city bill. But this bill doesn't change federal law. It doesn't change who follows the law. It doesn't change the punishments for the law. It really just changes who and where the enforcement of those laws happen. But similarly, like this doesn't change anything about federal immigration law, it also doesn't change anything about our criminal justice system, which Mary Catherine can speak more about. But anybody in this country and in this community who commits a crime, whether they were born in this country or came from somewhere else, there is a criminal justice system that deals with how to punish people or not for these crimes. This bill doesn't change that. There's no community in Tennessee that is saying that criminal law doesn't apply to a certain kind of person. Similarly, there's no city who says that federal law, immigration or otherwise, doesn't apply to someone. What this says is that schools and hospitals and local police who are investigating domestic violence are going to have to do the work of the federal government.
Mary Catherine.
Well, I think David brings up a point that resonates with a lot of people, which is that we don't want criminals here. We don't want to bring in criminals. We want to live in safe neighborhoods and safe communities. And I think everybody shares that value. Most everybody shares that value. As Stephanie said, this bill doesn't actually promote that. So this bill, David, wouldn't actually go to your concerns. And let me tell you, so I have been practicing criminal defense for about 13 years. And historically, it is precisely people who committed crimes who were targeted for removal from the country. That's not the case anymore. Now it's sort of scattershot. So now what I actually see among people I represent is that sometimes somebody will be picked up just for driving without a license. They're not doing anything wrong in their driving, just don't have a license. And they will get a detainer and get deported. Whereas I will see somebody who has a more serious crime and isn't picked up because it's scattershot. It's not focused and targeted anymore to people who commit priority crimes. The other thing, again, in the overbroad nature of this bill, is that it targets services that benefit everyone. So again, if you have a woman who is being abused by maybe her citizen husband, what we often see is there's sort of an immigration component to domestic violence where the husband may have status, the woman doesn't. Is she going to call the police if there's no guarantee that the police won't turn her over to immigration? Is a witness in a crime going to call the police if they think that the police might ask them about their status and potentially deport them? Beyond that, is a witness going to come to court? I can tell you firsthand, I've seen people not coming to court, which means crimes don't get solved, they don't get prosecuted, they don't get resolved.
But I guess, do you understand why people like David feel that going against this bill means supporting cities not complying with federal laws?
So again, you know, even the sponsors of this bill conceded that there are no cities who are considered so-called sanctuary cities right now in Tennessee. There haven't been. The state legislature already prohibited cities from being able to do that. So what we're concerned about, and what many members of the legislature are concerned about, is that this prevents local law enforcement and other government agencies from doing their job. Here in Nashville just a few weeks ago, our local police department was engaged in a manhunt looking for the Waffle House shooter, and they were looking for the shooter in Nashville's most diverse neighborhood. So if this bill were to become law, and police at any moment encouraged immigrants to call and report if they saw anything, if they saw somebody, and if they tried to reassure the community that they wouldn't turn them over to immigration or ask about their status, they would be considered a sanctuary city. So if we want communities to report crimes and help us keep us all safe, then we need to make sure that this bill doesn't become law.
All right, we'll stop it right there. We'll have much more after the break. We do have a caller on the line, so please stay hold. If you have any questions, 615-737+. More of OpenLine after the break.